All right, so here's quiz 2 review. Write a while loop that repeats until the user types no to a prompt. What I would have done is something like ask is input continue? Question mark, whatever. And while the user doesn't equal no, ask is input continue. That's all that was. Oh, I typed user, not ask.
So simple to the...
Not one of you is catching any of these mistakes that I made.
Well, you're going so quick, you don't give me a chance to catch up.
You don't want to correct like somebody because then it kind of comes off.
And then as soon as I say no, it ends. So that's all that one was. Right? Until the user says no, we're going to repeat something. And you could do or ask equal no in case they type all capitals. Van, please stop that.
Yeah.
We'll get to
I didn't mean to.
keep your hands on the desk. There we go. So that instead of having to type no, or no, right? Those are 4 ways you can write no with no, just whether or not they're capitalized or not. We'll get to a point where you'll only have to do one thing in order for that to work. So it's called string manipulation. Yes?
Is it okay if I used another method of writing that code that still does the same thing?
As long as it works, I'm okay with it. Some people I know they put input in here,
Yeah.
which can work. It's just, it will always ask that. So it's just a little, if it works, that's cool. But just in general, this is an easier, more concise, you tend not to have as many errors or why is this not working type things. Or sometimes if you do what you're talking about, you have to type no twice.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how you write it. This is how I would have done it. That where the user guesses the guesses the correct random number chosen by the computer. Well, I'm going to use random, so I need import random. And then it's going to be computer equals random.rand int from whatever I want. We're going to go 1 to 10. And then user is going to be the same here, except user. Now, should this be a string? As I'm writing the code currently, should I change input, my input?
Yeah. Should be to integer, right?
An integer version. An integer of whatever I type in. And instead of continue, I want pick a number 1 through 10.
Wait, don't you need another? Yeah. Or another.
Another what?
Oh no.
Now I'm going to go while user doesn't equal computer, print didn't guess correctly, and then I'm going to go user paste. And then once it's correct, I would hit print. You got it.
Wait, so do you make it the user every single time? Because I just did a while true statement and then that.
You could do while true and have break and continues.
And then, yeah, that's
You
it
don't-
do the same thing every time.
Yeah, you don't need, for the quiz, you guys won't have to implement break or continue into your actual file, into your actual code. There may be a couple multiple choice. It's like break does this, continue does this. Break ends the loop and ignores the rest of the loop and gets out of the loop. Continue ignores the rest of the loop and starts the loop over.
So
Zeke.
if I want to use while true in the test, and like you say a lot, like can I just? Like,
Yes.
no,
If it works, I don't care. You don't have to do.
Specifies if it's a while loop.
Yeah, if I say using a while loop, do this, it has to be a while loop. If you do while true and a bunch of stuff, that's fine. Or if you do while, or if you do it like this. McKay, you following along? Okay, doesn't look like you're typing anything, so hopefully you got it all done. Oops.
If we got something wrong, or maybe something didn't work and you explain it now, can we resubmit it, or is it just kind of final?
It's a very good question. You should be able to resubmit up until 12:30, up until the end of class. I just want to have what you had before I started, and then if you upload corrections, that's fine. I'll have to figure out how to do that. So let's say you got 50% on what you turned in originally, you got 100 afterwards, I may give you like 75. But your homework should have been done before class today. So you should have uploaded it.
Yeah, it's like if I already submitted it yesterday,
Yeah.
but then it's like, oh, I needed to change this.
Well, this is for review. This is for you guys to have the correct answers to have over the weekend before I grade it.
Yeah.
In case if for some reason I don't get to it this weekend and I have to grade it Monday after school, then you guys at least have the correct answers for all this to study from. So the user types in a number that is greater than 10 but less than 30. So user is int input a number while user is greater than 10 and user is less than 20. Just like we would do this if this was a if statement. If this, you can have multiple Boolean expressions. Carter.
Would you suggest like using a range for this instead, or would you rather?
No, because range is for a for loop.
Okay.
There is a way you could do it, but we haven't really learned that. You could do while user in range. Is that what you did?
Yeah, I pretty much made an input where I just say type a number greater than 10 but less than 20, and then I said if number in range 11, comma 20, print thanks bro, else print bro.
Okay. Should have been a while loop, but yeah, it was a while because
Well,
what
no,
this is.
it was a while.
Oh, if it's a while loop, okay. This is just making sure that whatever the user types in falls within my parameters for my code. Because I need certain code, you have to have certain parameters, you have to have certain numbers. Yeah. So while user is greater than 10 and user is less than 20, that's the number we want, right? Yeah. So we could do so we did go over not, and that's just the opposite of it being if this is within, do it. It's just not. While the number is not within, is not greater than. Or you could do, instead of that, because I'm getting a couple confused faces, we could do while user is less than or equal to 10 and user is greater than or equal to 20. Either one of those work. They both mean the same thing. So let's do this one. We're then going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go user and print, please enter a number in between 10 and 20. And then that one, this is called, again, a while validation loop. This is making sure that whatever a user types in is what we need. It validates the input. Make sense? This is pretty important. You will have to do this, in later codes. Let's say if I'm asking for a PIN, a 4-digit PIN, well, what happens if they type in 5 digits? Well, I'm like, hey, whoa, I only need 4. You're giving me 5. Don't try to break my code. So you have to be able to say, hey, if as long as what they type in is not 4 digits, have them type it in again. So that's that one. Okay, this one was a little tricky. This one took a little thinking. At least I think so. So while a running total, we went over that like our wallets, right? If I gave Matthew a $5 bill, a $5 bill, and a $5 bill, his wallet has how much money? $15. It's not 5, right? Because if we just have count equal 5, right? No matter how many times we run our loop, his count will always be 5. It won't grow, it'll stay 5. So what you do is you do count equals count plus 5. And then every time we run through, count gets bigger. So we're going to do count. We're going to start off count is 0. And while count is less than 10. We're going to add 1. And then we print count. And this should count upwards from 0 and print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now notice, I'm doing exactly what I told you guys not to do. I'm writing a bunch of code and not saving. So now I save. Oh, I'm far from smart, but thank you. So that is with the while. That's it with the while loops. Let's run it and see what happens. Matthew.
I had a question on number 4.
Yep.
Because I did it differently. I did count equals 0, then while count is less than or equal to 10, print count, and then count equals count plus 1, and then if count equals equal 10, break, and then else continue.
You could do that too. The if else is a little redundant because this loop won't continue once once count is 10. Because my code says as long as count is less than 10, we're going to do this. But that if it works, it works. So let's run it. Oh,
I thought you said that in the instructions given that you said you wanted to repeat exactly like 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
So how
It
does
will.
that-
Pick a number 1 to 10. Hang on. Let's make sure this works and then I'll show you. Okay. Uh-oh.
What if you did number 1 through a million and you guessed it right first try?
Oh wait, it's supposed to be 1 through 10.
I was gonna say, you're never gonna get it.
2. Okay, so the number was 2. Took me that long to figure it out. Please enter a number. 99. Okay, so I did something wrong, but it displayed.
Wait, yeah, you have to not. That's why the while true is good because then when you say break, then it won't print the user integer again. So if like what I did is I put while true and then like number is equal to integer and put the number 10 to 20. If number is greater than or equal to 10 and less than or equal to 20, print thank you, break, else, print no, continue. And then like the number one continues, but I don't know.
Mr. Stolter, you
Oh.
put an and. Shouldn't it be or?
I used and as that first
Yeah.
time.
Also, one thing. Do you guys see what's? If I enter in a number, there we go. Yeah. 15. There you go. And then I'll print. Nice job. So yeah, that was a good catch. That right there was saying if it is. Yeah, it was impossible. It was if whatever number is less than 10 and greater than 20. Is there a number that is less than 10 and greater than 20? No. And that's what my code was looking for, which is why this loop never happened. Matthew and then Zeke. Because I still have the for loops. I got about 10 minutes left, so.
How do you do the hashtag stuff fast?
Alt 3. So if you highlight it and Alt 3.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So if couldn't you just say less or greater than 10 and less than 20 and that would work the same way? And then you could put an and.
While it is greater than 20.
Or
Say-
no, it's less than 20, greater than 10. You had less than 10.
Yeah, you could do that. All right.
You could still have an and statement.
Yeah, just again, it depends on how you code it. There's like 4 different ways you could probably code that. Write a for loop that repeats 10 times and displays numbers 0 through 10 or 0 through 9 for x in range 10. Print x. That's all that one was. In the string. Displays the characters individually in the string hello world. For character in that's all that one was too. Displays even numbers from 0 to 100 for x in range. Now this one's a little tricky. From 0 to 100.
What's it? It's in 101.
I do need 101 somewhere in there. What's my starting number?
0.
Is 0 an even number?
Yes.
Is it?
No. No.
You divisible by.
I don't know. I don't think 0 is an odd even number. But if you put 0, that would work, or if you put 2. Those are the only 2 acceptable answers. If you put 1, it won't work. So we'll start with 0. And then what do we need one more number in here. What?
It's like a percent.
It's not a percent, no.
Isn't it a 2?
It is a 2. Why is it a 2, Luke?
Because it's displaying all the even numbers in your range.
But if I started, what happens if I change the 0 to a 1? What is it then displaying?
Oh, isn't it every second number after that? Then?
It's every second number starting here. So it would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Here's, with 0 it starts at 0, 2, 2, 4. If I change this to 5, what is it going to display? Yeah. It's going to display multiples of 5, multiples of 10, multiples of 52, that sort of thing if you start at 0. And we want it to go to 101. Why? Kitan, you got an idea?
Because we don't want the 100 to be go up to
We want, yes, kind of, sort of, almost. We want 100 to be included, and for coding reasons, 100 isn't included in range, so you have to add 1 and do 101. So, and then we just print x again. Repeats 6 times and displays a different random number each time. So import random, because I think I commented out earlier. For x in range, how many times do I want this to go?
6.
So what do I put in here?
0, 6.
I could do 0, 6, or I could just 6. And then I want to print random.randint, and I don't care, so 1 to 100, and that's it for that one.
So if you want to make something repeat a set number of times, you just do the for whatever in range and then just type it.
Yeah, you can use a while loop to go a certain number of times, which is what this one was for, but you don't have to.
Wait, how do you on?
Okay, I've said this I've said this multiple times, and every time I've tried to say, pay attention. I'm going to say this once more time. Class, pay attention. If you want to highlight and comment out a bunch of code at once in a bunch of lines, it's Alt 3. If you want to uncomment it, it's Alt 4. If you ever forget that, if you go to Format, it tells you all of these things. How to indent a region, dedent, comment out, comment, tabify, untabify, toggle tab, all that sort of stuff is all right here. I am not going to answer this question again. So, again, to comment out a section is Alt 3. To uncomment out is Alt 4. Please do not, I had a student one year who would do this and do just one, which if the line is unindented, that's okay. But notice how the print stays, it stays indented, so then I have to go into each individual line and do it. That was really annoying, so please don't do that. If you need to comment out a section, Alt 3. If you need to uncomment it out, Alt 4. And that is the last time I'm answering that question. Because otherwise I'll lose my mind. Any questions? Not that question though. Zeke. No, right, I know, put your hand up. But any questions on loops in general, for loops, while loops, when to use them, when not to? Seriously? All right.
Probably like some while loops, like how to use them better. Because sometimes I do like while true, and then it always just like does like the it never stops.
If you have while true, you have to have break somewhere in there.
Okay.
Or false, but it's easier if you're using while true. If you do while true, you have to have break. If you're doing while x equal, x is true, while x equal true, you can then do x equal false. So if you have just while true, you have to have break. If you have a variable equal true, you have to change that variable to false.
Okay.
Because in a while loop, you have to have something that breaks it. You have to have something that changes, whether it be, you break out of it or you change what this variable is.
Okay.
Yes.
The most common error I get with while loops and using break and continues is it tells me there's an expected indent that isn't there, or it's not properly in the loop.
Do you have an example? Or, because if you do while true, so let's do rand is random dot rand int from 0 to 10 while true if rand equal 5 break else continue.
That's what I did, and that's how I got it to work.
Yeah.
But do you have to use if and else to make it work?
No, you could get rid of this and it would literally, nothing would happen here.
But if I have something in between the while true statement that isn't in the while true statement, and then I place break,
that won't work. Break has to be inside of a loop. So if you're like, blah blah, this is a bunch of code, and then you have break here, that won't work because break has to be inside of a loop.
Okay.
It can be in a for loop. It can be in a while loop. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Preguntas. Yes, Thomas.
Could you scroll up back to number 2? I can't get the part.
Of the for loop or the while loop?
Wow.
So the important thing with this one is that if I put this line, if I put the computer picking its random number inside of the while loop, that number will reset every time. By keeping it outside of the while loop, it selects a number, and then it stays that randomly selected number. This is saved online under student resources called Chapter 2 Quiz Review. Use it to review. If you have questions, send me messages. Also, if you have links that you want, if you have designs or posters or whatever, decorations, that's the word, you want in here, send me a link on Amazon.
What's the price?
Just be reasonable.
I think I have it almost exactly the